Hello everyone. I have created an end-to-end cloud GenAI streaming project. So whenever we enter a prompt, we send it back to our FastAPI. In FastAPI, we have created complete pipelines for Gemini Pro model along with function calling and streaming architecture. So here just now the response was streamed. So we are using Gemini Pro streaming fast API. We have got an endpoint for OpenAI Assistant API as well when we have got AI-powered interactive maps. With it, we have also used Pydantic and SQL Alchemy ORM in the backend. So we can always save our chat in the database and we can connect any database since we are using an ORM. The front end is powered in NextJS14 as well as Streamlit. And the backend is built in Fast API and we have deployed it on Google Run. So this is our Streamlit UI. You can try it out later as well. So we can switch between Gemini streaming and function calling fast API and OpenAI Assistant API. And this is our backend. We have deployed it on Google Run. The first endpoint is for the first endpoint is for OpenAI Travel Assistant. So here we have used OpenAI Assistant API architecture. The second one is to save the chats to our database. And the third one is the streaming endpoint. So in this video, right now we are going to dive into the code and understand how is this streaming working. So let's dive right into it. So you can also clone the code. I have documented everything that I have done in this README file. So it includes instructions to install the project locally, even to Docker, create the Docker image and deploy it on Google Run as well. So let's go into our backend and understand the Gemini streaming architecture. So this is our entry point. Here we have registered the endpoint that we are using. So let's visit the Gemini streaming endpoint. So we have created three layers. The first one is web layer. Whenever the any front end communicates with our server, with our endpoint, this is the layer that is communicating with it. So as you can see, this is our web layer. Here we have created the streaming architecture that streams the response back to the front end server. So this is a simple function that is streaming the response, and here we are calling this function. So now let's see what's happening here. All right. So here we are importing the Vertex AI generative AI model, function declaration, and some types as well. Yeah, type saves a lot of time. So here we have defined the basic C prompt for our Gemini Pro model. Next, we have created the function. Since we are using AI powered maps and we are going to change these coordinates to control that map. So we have defined these coordinates here, and using function calling, we will update these coordinates and send them to the front end. So this is our function that will be called whenever function calling is required. And here is the OpenAI schema declaration for Gemini Pro model. This is what we are going to provide to the Gemini Pro model. And based on it, the model will determine whether it needs to call the function and what parameters shall it return back. Next, now we are just defining our GenAI model. We have defined the temperature. We have given it the tool that we have defined above and two messages. So these are our three messages and this is our chat history. So we have defined types to avoid any typos or errors. And we have created a class to manage all the operations of this Gemini assistant. And this is a streaming architecture, remember this. So firstly, we initialize the class. If the model is not present, we'll just going to raise an error. We can't do anything then. This endpoint returns the history. So here we are using the chat feature. The chat feature automatically manages the history and maintains the conversation, just like we saw here. If we ask what was my last message, we are going to get our last message back. This is because using this chat endpoint, yeah, just like you can see it here. Now let's go back. All right. So next, this is our main endpoint, run assistant. So what happens here is that we are going to make a call to Gemini using our prompt. So assistant.send message prompt and stream equals to true. Now, after we get the response, since it's a stream, so we are firstly using a for loop and then we are checking if in the stream, are we getting a text back or do we have to make the function call? So if it's a text, we have simply used the yield keyword and streaming back. Remember, whenever you see a yield keyword, it's a generator function. and we can easily implement the streaming architecture using it because it returns one thing at a time rather than waiting for the complete response to complete. So we have got some error handling to ensure the application don't breaks. Yeah, that's really important. All right, next we check if we are getting any function or not. And if we have not got a function or an irrelevant name, we are just using check them Gemini is sleeping. Next, we are extracting all the arguments, and then we are checking whether that argument is present. If it's present, we just store it here, and then we call our function. So this really helps because sometimes we are only going to update the location and not add the markers. And sometimes we are going to add the markers and update the location as well. So we will have some coordinates and some not. And secondly, since we are using a model, so there's always a chance for hallucination or wrong coordinates or wrong response. Next, what happens is that after we get the response, we are sending it back to the Gemini. So here we are constructing our message. We have got the function response status, and then we ask the model, we have called the function, we have got the response. Now just to tell us the user what's next. The map is updated. We have called the function successfully. Next, as we get the response back, we again use the yield keyword and stream it back. Likewise, if any value error occurs, we are just implemented error handling, and here we are returning Gemini is sleeping to ensure a seamless user experience. Next, we are just initializing this class, passing the model and chat history that we have defined above. And here we have got a simple function. Here we are calling the run assistant function that we have just seen. And then as we start getting the message, we return it back. Then we have also added an end keyword. So if for some reason the stream breaks or we get an end keyword, we are going to immediately break the stream so the application don't get stuck due to any sort of error at any point. So now let's check out the other endpoints as well. So within the service layer, this is the OpenAI travel assistant endpoint. So you can check it out as well. Here currently OpenAI don't support streaming, so we have not implemented that here. And next here we have got the database operations. So we are using SQL Alchemy ORM, and we get the user thread, the chat history, and we'll store it into the database. So that's it for this video. Go on and clone it, try it out, play with it. If you have got any questions, or you face any error while setting it up, feel free to reach out and let's solve it together. And remember, the core function, the purpose of creating this was to understand the streaming architecture. We are getting the response from Gemini using FastAPI, and we are streaming the response back to any front end that calls it. Like here, if we talk about NextJS Frontend, let's go to the API route that is calling it, and yeah, this one. So whatever happens is that as we make the call, we just send the response.body back to our front end. And on the front end, we have created a simple utility function that is consuming the stream and showing the response to the user. Likewise, we have got a simple streamlit tab here as well. So if you are more into only pure Python, you can check this out. So that's it for today. Try it out and share your feedback. I'm excited to hear what you think about streaming and how we can improve it further. Thank you.